All right. Hello, parents, guardians, family of AP Comparative, Government, and Senior Civic students. I am, first of all, apologizing. I'm very sorry that I'm not here to meet with you on Parent Night tonight. Before we even had the school calendar set last spring, I had made plans to be out of town today. So I'm very, very sorry that I'm not meeting you in person tonight, but I wanted to share with you a little bit about what our class is like and share some of the things that I would have shared with you in person on Parent Night. Well, again, my name is Trent Weberg. I'm so thrilled to be your student's AP Comparative Government teacher and Senior Civics teacher second semester. I have most of the same students second semester for Senior Civics. I'll have more information about that class coming out second semester. It'll look quite a bit different than the AP class just because the curriculum and the pace of the class is so much different. But I will come up with more information with that right around winter break or shortly afterwards. But the easiest way to get in touch with me if you guys have any questions or concerns is definitely email. I share my classroom with some other teachers and have a different office room during regular school hours, but email is certainly the best way to get in touch with me. Just a little bit about myself and a little bit about what your students are going to be covering this year. This is now my 7th year teaching AP Comparative Government. I really, really enjoy it. I took the class my senior high school, really opened up my understanding of government in other countries around the world, and I hope that your students will have a very similar experience. I'm still relatively new here to Shorewood. This is my 2nd year here, but I've been in the Puget Sound area since I was a little kid. I grew up over in Silverdale, directly to the west of us, near the Olympic Mountains, where I went to Central Kitsap High School. I went to UW for both my undergrad and my master's programs. And for my undergrad, I got bachelor's degrees in both political science and a second bachelor degree in history. And also I majored in my master's in teaching in social studies at UW for my master's program. I've also been teaching at Shelton and Mount Si High School in Snoqualmie, and before that I did my student teaching just up the road from us, up on Mountain Lake Terrace, then down in Renton, and then over in Norway as well, in Trondheim at an international school. But I really, really enjoy working with the students here at Shorewood, and really looking forward to getting to know your students this year. A little bit about the structure of the class and what we're going to be covering. We are just finishing up our U.S. government and kind of intro vocabulary terms right now. The class is about to get a lot more specific, but we're going to be focusing on these 6 comparative government countries for roughly about 2.5 weeks per country, with a very short, like 1-day lesson on the European Union. But this is going to be the order that we're going to be studying these countries. They're all going to be tested on the AP exam in May. And the first 2 countries that we're going to look at, Mexico and Great Britain, are the ones that are the more advanced democracies. They have the most similar institutions to the United States in structure and political culture. And then we're going to get further and further away from the US system. We're going to be learning about Russia and Nigeria next, and then China and Iran. So the goal of the AP curriculum was to introduce students to different regions around the world and different systems of government as well. And I hope that your students find it as fascinating as I do to teach it, and as I did to learn about it my senior year of high school. A little bit about the grading procedures in the class. First semester is going to be so heavily weighed on assessments. Because the AP exam, we really want to prepare kids to be successful in college, where the majority of their grades are going to be based off of 3 or 4 major assessments. So that's why the grading procedures are kind of broken down that way. One thing that is really unique to this class is daily quizzes. Students do take daily quizzes on the previous night's reading, where I assign them somewhere between like 5 to like a dozen learning targets. Things I encourage them to take notes. Now, as seniors, they normally have a pretty good understanding of what sort of note-taking system works best for them. So I don't require them to turn in any particular format. I just highly, highly, highly suggest that they follow the note-taking system that works the best for them. And then they come in the next day and they have a quiz based off of the information that they read, and I draw those questions from the learning targets that the students have taken down notes on. So they don't get to use the notes on the quiz, but the notes are kind of like the study guide, and again, the learning targets will help them focus their notes. The other thing that I give students on those daily quizzes to help them out is a couple extra credit questions. We're trying to learn about current events as much as we can, because number one, they're interesting for students and engaging, and number two, we want to connect them with the content that they're reading about. So every day I ask about 2 to 3 extra credit questions, mostly from these comparative government countries, but also from the United States as well, because it's important for them to learn about our government system. It's a good point of reference to compare and contrast with these 6 countries. And then also, we're going to be focusing more on US government second semester when we get into senior civics. So highly encourage your kids to keep up on current events. I don't require a certain news source. There are so many good news sources that are out there available for students. I think the BBC World website is probably the best place to go for one-stop shopping, for exposure to all the different regions around the world, with shorter, more concise articles that are easier for students to digest, but it's not the required news source. I could be pulling extra credit questions from other news sources as well that aren't necessarily covered in the BBC, try to give a wide range of exposure, but the BBC is the one that I use the most frequently, and I think is probably the best for students to follow. A little bit about about my expectations for students. They should have about 45 minutes of homework a night, which is entirely based off the reading that they have, the vocabulary list that they have for each individual unit, and then about an additional 15 minutes of following the BBC or another news agency to prepare for those current events. So roughly about an hour of homework a night. And it's pretty consistent. Students have gotten a reading schedule and testing schedule for the entire semester. It's available on my Canvas page, so I would definitely recommend that students, if they know that they're going to be gone for senior kind of college visits, field trips, sporting trips, musicians as well are going to be gone for field trips, I recommend that they keep up on their assignments. That way the work doesn't start to pile up on them. And really encourage a lot of classroom discussion and debate in here. The students have been highly, highly respectful of each other so far. Many of them know each other very well, but one of the things I'm going to emphasize as we do get into debating is to attack other ideas and not people. That way it's not personal insults. It's about challenging and kind of each other's opinions, learning about different perspectives, but not making it personal. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, but that's something that I'm definitely going to be reminding students when we do get into the debates. As far as my expectations for myself, again, email is by far the best way to get in touch with me. If you email me, I will respond to you within 48 hours. I also am available after school roughly 2 to 3 days a week, shooting for 3 as often as possible, as long as I don't have meetings, for students to come in to work on test corrections. If students ever get questions wrong on a test, they can come in during SAS before school. It's a little bit harder just because of the so many moving pieces. After school, I'm able to work with them more individually. They get a chance to correct any mistakes that they have made on their exam, and they earn a half point back on each test question that they correct. So it's a good opportunity for your students to improve their grade. Another thing is, when students are debating and we're talking about current issues in here, I'm going to be trying my very best not to share my personal opinion with students. I really hope that they learn their own personal political views this year. They're exposed to other political views so they can help strengthen their own. I'm going to be playing devil's advocate. If I'm finding a lot of the members of the class are on one side of a political issue, I will jump in and then present the other perspective to kids to get them thinking more critically. So if your student ever comes home and says, "Oh, Mr. Weber, you wouldn't believe what you said in class today," know that I'm coming from this devil's advocate role. Again, I'm not here to indoctrinate your student. I'm here to help them think as critically as possible. So thank you again so much. I really wish I had the opportunity to meet you here in person. Really emphasize kind of some key tips for success for your student is to keep up on their work. Senior is going to be so busy. There's going to be so many things going on, both socially and college preparations. Really recommend to keep up on that daily reading. That way they're well prepared for the daily quizzes, and that's why I keep that structure, and so they don't fall behind and start to procrastinate. I really encourage that they come in after school or during SAS for test corrections, and then ask for help whenever they feel frustrated, confused about a subject. I'm here to help your students succeed. Thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to helping your student have the most successful year possible. Thank you.